You're watching UATV News. My name is Inna Kosinska. Good evening. Security issues in Lithuania, Poland and Ukraine will be discussed at the Lublin Triangle summit at the presidential level. The meeting will take place on December 20th. Presidents of Poland and Lithuania, Andrzej Duda and Gitanas Nausėda, will arrive in Ukraine. The Lublin Triangle itself is a new format of cooperation between the three countries. It was created by foreign ministers of the three states last July.
I'll be happy to welcome Presidents Andrzej Duda and Gitanas Nausėda to Ukraine in a few days. We'll meet in person in the format of the Lublin Triangle for the first time. I appreciate this manifestation of solidarity and support. Together, we deepen the Ukrainian-Lithuanian-Polish strategic partnership. Volodymyr Zelensky, President of Ukraine, in Twitter.
The United States of America is considering the possibility of deploying additional military contingent in the Eastern European NATO countries. This is due to the threat of a possible Russian invasion of Ukraine. This was announced by a press secretary of the White House. She stressed that Washington is working out diplomatic mechanisms for resolving the situation and maintains constant contacts with Ukraine, Russia and allies in the region.
And what happened, if you look back post-2014, is a lot of these NATO partner countries were looking for reassurance. We're looking to plus up the presence there. We're looking for, additional rotational deployments. And certainly that is on the table should Russia decide to invade Ukraine. So day by day, what we are working to do here is keep the lines of diplomatic engagement open, have those conversations with Europeans, but also directly with the Ukrainians and the Russians, and continue to look and pursue a diplomatic path forward.
Ensuring the territorial integrity of Ukraine, countering the aggression of the Russian Federation and promoting a positive image in the world. Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine presented the priorities of the foreign policy strategy for 2022. Dmytro Kuleba said that one of the 6 directions of the strategy is the continuation of the course towards full membership in the EU and NATO. During the presentation, he noted that the United States remain one of the main partners for Ukraine in resolving the situation in Donbass.
I have no doubt that the quality and quantity of contacts between the US administration and Ukrainian authorities, and in particular between President Zelensky and President Biden, will remain high on a regular basis. And the US administration will not decide anything with Putin behind our back. It is a political security guarantee that has been voiced at all levels, from Biden to the US Secretary of State. If there is the next round of Biden-Putin talks, then there will be next round of Biden and Zelensky talks.
The next year will be the year of building and reconstruction of housing for internally displaced persons. Such a priority task was set by President Volodymyr Zelensky. This was stated by Deputy Prime Minister, Minister for Reintegration of the Temporarily Occupied Territories of Ukraine, Irina Vereshchuk, during her visit to the Luhansk region. She handed over the keys to new apartments to 12 families in Novoaidar. The minister noted that if the central and local authorities work together, then ways for solving problems and development will always be found. I understand that there is a huge need and it is currently measured in billions that are not in the central budget. But for this we have to think about how to make sure that the minimum that the state can provide is provided. And the rest should be sought in partner funds. We have opportunities, we have an economic strategy for the development of Donetsk and Luhansk regions. It also has some steps. Let's implement those steps and see how it works. If small and medium business come here, it will be a new breath for the territory. This will nourish the territory, help to create jobs. And a person who may be watching us from temporarily uncontrolled territories will conclude that it is better to come here and start building the future here. 800,000 tons of coal will be stored in Ukrainian warehouses by the end of the year. This was stated by Deputy Head of the President's Office, Rostislav Shurma, in an interview to one of the Ukrainian TV channels. According to the official, the reserves currently make about 600,000 tons. This is a low figure. There's a number of reasons for this. However, the volume of coal mined in Ukraine is sufficient to ensure the stable operation of the energy system, he noted.
First, there was the global energy crisis about 6 months ago, when there was a global shortage of coal around the world. The second is the aggressive actions of Russia, which has blocked the delivery of coal by rail from countries from which we could import. In particular, Kazakhstan was a major supplier of coal to Ukraine. It could supply up to 500,000 tons per month. In order to renew these reserves, we will import 6 to 10 ships monthly by sea. To date, 2 ships are already under unloading in ports. About 6 more ships are expected to arrive by the end of of December. Rostislav Shurma, deputy head of the Office of the President of Ukraine.
The Verkhovna Rada passed a bill aimed at stimulating the development of the digital economy in Ukraine. In particular, it regulates the tax conditions of the special Diia City legal regime. It was supported by 285 MPs. According to the document, the resident companies of Diia City will get 0% personal income tax and a tax rebate on the amount of investment in Ukrainian startups. Those residents of the Diia City who will remain on the model of income tax payment on a general basis and whose annual income limit is up to 40 million hryvnias will be able to work with individual entrepreneurs without restrictions for the entire period of residence.
Diia City is a unique tax regime that is provided for the IT industry. It is currently the best in the world. It provides for the taxation of the salaries of IT specialists working in resident companies in the amount of 5% of personal income tax and 1.5% of military duty. In addition, there are gig contracts on the basis of which the relevant payments under the relevant commission can also be made. The possibility of using the withheld capital tax for residents of Diia City is provided as well.
Last year, the IT industry brought $5 billion in direct investment. This is a huge amount, which is the second largest amount of foreign investment after the agricultural sector, and this is the year when all industries fell. At the moment, we believe that the IT industry needs to be supported and given the necessary incentives and the necessary opportunities that can be given now. The number of transplantations in Ukraine has tripled over the past 2 years. However, there are hundreds of Ukrainians on the list in need of new organs. There are many children among them. My colleagues will tell the story of a girl who got a chance for life after a kidney transplant. Starting March 14, 2021, transplantations have been carried out just here at the Ohmydyt National Children's Specialized Hospital. These are bone marrow and kidney transplants. In the Ohmydyt, transplantation from a deceased donor is actively practiced.
This way, 9 children got a chance to live. Another 5 received organ transplants from their relatives. 16-year-old Sofia had been waiting for a kidney for several years. All this time, the girl lived in a hospital several times a week. 4 hours a day she spent on hemodialysis. But at the end of November, a donor was found.
At first, it was all like, under a big question mark. They said, we don't know yet, but maybe. And then in the evening, they said that for sure that I am oh, at last. Thank you. My God, it was usually hard for me to fall asleep. I had a lot of thoughts and that's it. But to be honest, I wasn't scared at all.
A 32-year-old donor died of a stroke. The relatives agreed to posthumous organ harvesting. They saved the lives of 4 people.
They blood tested 3 kids. Everything was under question. I tried to tell my daughter not to get upset. All children wait for a transplant. And then they said in the evening, yes, you're sweet. We waited for a long time, so when it finally happened, everyone was shocked. We couldn't believe our happiness.
Sofia's case is unique. Due to a rare congenital disease, the girl has a very weak immunity system. And after such an operation, the patient must take immunosuppressive drugs. So the list of medicines for Sofia was chosen especially carefully. In Ukraine, there are only few children with this congenital disease, that is the Shimka syndrome. It affects both the connective tissue, which leads to liver failure, and to malfunction of the immune system. There are dozens of little patients waiting for transplantation. Some of them have been waiting for a suitable donor for about 10 years. However, this year, after a single electronic waiting list, the state transplant information system was formed. The process has sped up, and doctors do most of the transplants from the deceased donors. As of now, there are 63 children in the single state information system for transplantation. Of them, 5 children are expecting a heart, 16 a liver, and 43 are waiting for a kidney transplant. This year, 2 heart transplantations have already been performed for children, as well as 7 livers and 27 kidneys. Expecting a new organ, children with kidney failure have to regularly undergo hemodialysis.
They just can't live without it. The longer they are on dialysis, the more side effects they get from other organs. Thought hemodialysis is a life-saving procedure. It is not that safe. This is a cardiovascular system which suffers. This is constant hyperonization, that is non-coagulation of blood.
The walls of the Ohmydyt replace a home for these children. Here they study and look for new friends. Sofia will go home in a few weeks. The girl already has plans to finally attend a concert of her favorite band. Reported by Vadim Kramer and Larissa Zubenko, UATV News.
The validity of one's COVID certificate will not be extended after the 3rd jab. It will be active for 365 days, said Ihor Kuzin, Deputy Minister of Health, Chief State Sanitary Doctor of Ukraine. To remind, the Ministry of Health has recently introduced the third dose of the coronavirus vaccine for the most vulnerable citizens. In particular, additional vaccination is indicated for people after transplantation and immunosuppressive therapy, HIV-positive patients, cancer patients and Ukrainians over 60 who were administered two CoronaVac vaccines.
Тепер вони зможуть отримати.
They will now be able to get an additional jab 28-90 days after the second dose, regardless of the vaccine they were administered before. Thus, the immune system of these categories of people will be more protected from coronavirus disease.
Senior citizens will be able to spend 1,000 hryvnias provided by the state after vaccination for social needs. The Cabinet of Ministers expanded the Esupport program. Ukrainians over 60 will be able to purchase medicines with the money starting January next year. To remind, the Esupport program will be available starting December 19th for all fully vaccinated Ukrainians. Spending those 1,000 hryvnias or some $37, one can also buy a subscription to a gym or a fitness club, visit a cinema, theater, museum, buy books or tickets for traveling around Ukraine. Our task is to provide real support to not only business but to every Ukrainian. That is why we are working to expand and improve the program. We pay special attention to older people. After all, each age has its own needs. From the beginning of the new year, senior citizens will be able to buy medicines within the program. During the week, problems may arise in the operation of the Diia State Services app, warned Deputy Prime Minister, Minister for Digital Transformation of Ukraine, Mikhailo Fedorov. This is due to testing of the Esupport program. According to him, this is the largest online service in the entire history of Ukraine. Potentially more than 8 million people will be able to receive 1,000 hryvnias within the framework of the project in a little more than 1 week. On the eve, Ukrainians complained about malfunctions in the application, in particular that the online documents were not displayed. A century of fashion on a New Year tree. A festive exposition was opened at the Victorian Costume Museum in Kyiv. The collection of miniature dolls features the most iconic outfits of the world's fashion houses. When did Ukrainian aristocrats begin to decorate New Year trees and how, through fashion, the museum shows the link between Ukraine and Europe? Our correspondents will tell.
Dior, Chanel, Balenciaga, Gucci, Givenchy. Iconic miniature dresses of the world fashion houses decorate the New Year tree in the Costume Museum. During several years, 96 dolls have been created by Kyiv artist Olesa Kuchmenko. A collection of miniature figurines showcases how female fashion has evolved.
They're hung in a specific order. There are the oldest models dating back to the late 19th century on top. And at the base of the tree, there are those that date back to the early 20th century. These toys are an example of how fashion has been changing.
The museum says tradition of celebrating New Year came to Ukraine from Europe. Already in the second half of the 19th century in large Ukrainian cities, people began to put fir or pine trees at home, decorate them and put gifts for children under.
History of a New Year celebration as we imagine it now began in the Victorian era in 1948, thanks to Prince Albert, the love of all life of Queen Victoria. After that, of course, using this example, people began to put Christmas trees up both in Tsarist Russia and in Ukraine. They were not originally decorated with toys, but with dry oranges, cinnamon twigs, etc.
On the festive display near the New Year tree decorated with dolls, there are clothes that Ukrainian aristocrats wore on New Year and Christmas holidays in the 19th century.
The story that you need to celebrate New Year in everything brand new and clean it, of course, also started from those times. People celebrated in the most elegant clothes they had. Behind me you see the low-cut dresses. These are evening ballroom dresses. The dress took at least 3-4 months to get ready. It was necessary to order such an attire at a milliner or a designer.
In total, the collection of the museum contains more than 1,000 exhibits. These are casual and festive outfits, shoes and accessories from the Victorian era. The collection shows the connection between Ukrainian and European history.
The fashion presented in the museum was absolutely the same for the big Ukrainian cities of that period: Odessa, Kyiv, Lviv, Kharkiv and other European cities, London, Berlin. Our museum is a confirmation that Ukraine has always been a part of Europe.
Next year, this Kyiv Costume Museum will compete for the title of the best museum in Europe. It was shortlisted for one of the most prestigious professional awards, European Museum of the Year Award. The New Year's exposition in the museum is displayed until December the 18th. Reported by Vadim Kramer and Yulia Krychkova, UATV News.
That's all for this hour. More updates on our official website, YouTube, Twitter and Facebook pages. Thank you for staying with the UATV channel. See you tomorrow. Goodbye.